This is even better than we thought, as Yanni Hakampaa has finally broken the silence about his time and his upcoming future in Toronto following him signing his contract. And he said some very interesting things about his future and how his health status currently is as the season fast approaches. So to break that down, discuss what it means going forward, as Yanni Hakanpaa is poised to have a very big role for the Leafs this season. But before we get into that, if you're a part of the percentage that aren't subscribed to the channel, about 71% of you aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're trying to surpass Habs Digest, who just hit 14,000 subscribers. We can't have them passing us, guys, so make sure to hit the subscribe button. But Darius, Yanni Hakanpaa finally broke the silence surrounding Toronto, his time in Toronto, and obviously he only officially signed very, very recently, but it seems like he's been a Leaf in spirit for the past, what feels like months now. And he finally broke the silence. And let's just dive right into it. So you can see it here. Yanni Hakampaa will talk to Leaf staff tomorrow about his timeline. He said he hopes to return and play as fast as possible. You're itching at this time. We put a lot of work into all that, so we're getting close. But now just put the finishing touches on it and get back out there. So Darius, what are your thoughts on this? We have a bunch of other quotes to go over as well, but this is kind of the first one surrounding his timeline, which is one of the more important things and one of the more telling things that he said here. It seems like he's itching, and he seems to be pretty healthy, but not fully there yet.
Yeah, it sounds like he's very close, which I didn't know was a thing, right? I thought that he was healthy and he was expected to play in the preseason and obviously the first couple games, but barring any lineup changes or some trades or whatnot. But I am pretty excited about this, and he seems pretty excited. That's why I'm excited about it, because he seems like he can come in and play and make a difference. And there's really no issue with his knee. Obviously, I don't think he's 100% or, the player he was a couple of years ago or when he broke into the league, but he seems excited to get going. And the Leafs are really working with this player to make sure that, he's feeling good and able to do exactly what he was brought in to do, which is be physical. And, it takes a toll on your entire body, but obviously your knee, and he's not getting any younger. So it was nice to see him out at the event yesterday. It was a golf event. He didn't play either, which they addressed as well. He did not play in the golf event if it had something to do with his knee. And, obviously he said that his golf game is so bad and that's why he didn't play, which I thought was pretty funny. But it looks like he's gearing up and getting ready to go, which is a good sign, because obviously there's a lot of question marks through the summer, and he's signed now, and it sounds like he's getting really close to being able to be ready to go.
Yeah, and obviously when we signed, or when the Maple Leafs signed Hakanpaa a week or two ago, we were hoping that he would be at the very least healthy enough, like you mentioned, maybe play the preseason. But I'm more worried about him heading into the second half of this season and into the playoffs when it actually matters for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Because obviously the Leafs have a lot of defensemen right now. They have 6 guys. You have Timothy Liljegren as well, 7 if you're including Yanni Hakampaa, of course. And Yanni basically went on to say it's more about learning what's good and what's bad for it regarding his knee and sticking with the good stuff. So it seems at this point it's something that he's just going to have to deal with throughout the season and manage, maybe some load management. He says there's good days, there's bad days, but I think that underlying trust that is going to happen eventually has always been there. And of course, we know that the classic Steve Simmons report that the knee was bone to bone, he might never play in the NHL again. That's clearly not the case, and that's clearly obviously that wasn't made up, but the injury isn't that severe. He's going to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. The question mark now surrounds the Toronto Maple Leafs is a few different things. For one, when will he play? Will he be ready for opening night? Will he even factor into the equation opening night? Because they do have 6 other defensemen locked up now that seemingly will fit into the lineup. And Liljegren is maybe the one that you can flip between him and Yanni Hakampaa, but the other ones seem pretty set, assuming they go with a similar strategy. But you never know with Craig Berube. Like we've been talking about in our videos, the strategy is definitely a bit different than the Sheldon Keefe era. But it's good, and it's way better than we thought that we know he's going to be healthy at some point. The thing is, when will he be healthy? Hopefully by opening night. But then the question is, does he even factor into the opening night roster? That's still up in the air if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan.
Yeah, and he might not, depending on when he does get into the lineup in terms of training camp, right? But somebody asked him yesterday, do you have to relearn how to skate, basically? Because he says there in the quote, it's about learning what's good for it and what's not good for it. And I think that goes into what he's eating. So, his body is reacting well to it and he can kind of manage it. Because like you said, it's something he's going to have to manage. It's not really going to go away. This is an issue, right? He's going to have to manage it. So, maybe he's changed what he's eating, the way he exercises. He said he didn't really have to relearn how to skate or change the way he's skating, which is a good thing. And he said that he's more focused on managing it. and learning what's good and bad for it, so he doesn't have to wear a brace, because that's going to really affect the way he plays, right? So I think that's a good thing, because if he came out and said, I have to wear a brace and this might be an issue, I'd be more concerned. But he said he's going to be able to manage it and he feels pretty good. So that's good. So he should be back soon, and he might factor in, if he's healthy, I would put him in the opening night lineup, because it's going to be a physical game. The Montreal Canadiens want to make an impact right away, right? And nobody takes the Leafs lightly anymore. They are a contender, and obviously Craig Berube is going to want a physical brand of hockey. So do I think Liljegren will play some nights over Hakanpaa? Yes, absolutely. But in terms of, wanting Hakanpaa in the lineup, I think Craig Berube is going to want that immediately to kind of set the tone for the season. So if he's ready to go, he will be there, I think, opening night, and we'll just have to see where he fits into the lineup, or if he gets into the lineup in preseason. And obviously training camp, which starts later this week, we're going to have to see if he actually gets on the ice right away.
Yeah, and obviously as training camp approaches, there's going to be a lot of questions that are answered surrounding whether it's Yanni Hakampaa, whether it's a lot of these prospects. And to give some more insight on what he said, I think it's more of just finding ways to do stuff off the ice to support it the best we can, and just cut out a bunch of stuff that's not really good for it. And just kind of, it's more learning what's good and bad and sticking with the good stuff. So some very great analysis there from him. Basically, don't do things that hurt it. And ultimately, it's nice to finally have some actual information from the source himself, rather than all the hearsay from the different reporters about Yanni Hakanpaa, because we're kind of thrown for a loop about whether or not he was going to sign. But it seems like it's just something that he's going to have to deal with, and he's going to have to manage for the foreseeable future for the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is part of the reason I assume they signed him to a 1-year deal instead of the original reported 3 or 2-year deal at $1.5 million AAV, so $3 million total. So a lot of different stuff now. As you look at the Maple Leafs core, you obviously have Yanni Hakanpaa, you have OEL, and you have a lot of different guys there. The question is, Darius, if you put Yanni Hakanpaa into the lineup on opening night, who do you subtract from the lineup? And it's a good problem to have, but that's why if Yanni Hakanpaa was fully healthy, it probably would be a bit of an easier decision. But it's very nice to have some insight, and it's very good and better than I thought, because I was still a little bit worried that his injury was very serious. It seems like it is not super serious, but just something that's going to linger throughout the year.
Yeah, Nick, I think you know who my answer is. I think everybody who's subscribed to the channel knows exactly who I'm going to say, who I would take out in favor of Yanni Hakanpaa. When you look at the entire lineup, and we can go through it, at least the defensive pairings, barring an injury, Riley and Tanev are not coming out of the lineup this year. And I wouldn't touch Simone Benoit and Jake McCabe. I thought they were a great pairing last year. Craig Berube can have a shot at it, whatever he thinks works best, but I wouldn't touch that. When you look at the final pairing, they didn't sign OEL for no reason. He's going to be in the lineup. I think they're going to start splitting up power play lines, and he's going to be a big factor into that. So who's left? It's Timothy Liljegren there on the right side, right? So I would take him out in favor of Hakanpaa. And I'm not saying every single game. I think when it calls for it, if you know it's going to be a more physical game, especially to start the year, like I said, or if you're playing the Bruins or some heavier teams, right? I would put Hakanpaa in that position. I would take Liljegren out, but we'll just see. We're gonna have to wait and see what Craig Berube likes, and in training camp, and maybe Liljegren does take a step too, because I do think that the injury potentially hindered his play last year. So with him coming into training camp fully healthy, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, there's going to be matchup dependent, I think. And like you mentioned, 5 of those guys, aside from Timothy Liljegren, are pretty locked in there, whether it's because of the contracts, whether it's because, bearing a Benoit collapse, which could definitely happen. I hope not, because we've been on the Benoit train for a while. But let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this. What are your thoughts are on all of this new information about Yanni Hakanpaa's knee? Do you feel better after hearing this info, or do you feel worse? I think it's a little bit better overall, but let us know. We'll see you guys tomorrow.